I got introduced once when I was fairly new. I got introduced with one of my own bits of material. The guy didn't even know who he was ripping off, and did it, and then brought me on with it. And I was like, oh, what?
Yarn and hello, welcome and thanks for joining us on 30 Minute Call, proudly produced by the Canberra Theatre Centre right here on Ngunnawal land, and we pay our respects to the people of the Ngunnawal Nation and their elders past, present and emerging. My name is Joe Gleeson, and today Greg Fleet joins us. I'm so happy to have Greg on. He has been a part of the Australian comedy scene for as long as I can remember. He was even on Neighbours and Full Frontal and Underbelly. So Australian. He's had a long and well-documented battle with heroin addiction. I say well-documented because he was the one who documented it in one of his 3 books. It's called These Things Happen, and it's an amazing, amazing book. There are many fascinating things about Greg, and we could talk to him all day, but the reason we have him on is because he is bringing a theatre show called The Twins to the Canberra Theatre Centre very, very soon. He and Ian Darling have written it, they perform in it, and it's very personal. It's based on their own story, and we'll hear all about that amongst a whole bunch of other things. So this is going to be a lot of fun. Greg Fleet, this is your 30-minute call. Greg Fleet, much loved Australian comedian, writer, actor, a big fan of dogs as well, from what I can tell.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Welcome.
Thank you for having me. I just seen a very fine dog on my way here to record with you. I went past a person with a Jack Russell that looked very, very similar to mine. So it was very, very warming, heartwarming.
You do.
It's a good sign for the interview.
You do still have your little Jack Russell?
Yeah, I do. She's great. She lives with my ex and my daughter. They basically stole her from me, and they looked after her when I went away once. And when I came back, it was just like, nah, we're not giving her back. And she very wisely sized up my ex and myself, and basically chose my ex as a better bet. More likely to get fed on time, and all the rest of it. So
fair enough.
But no, she's great, and she gets very excited when I go to visit and everything. So we still see each other all the time.
Yeah, awesome.
Thanks, Mary. My friend Mary just made me a coffee. See, that's awesome. A good thing about being on a podcast, and you can just go, "Hey, can you get me? I'm on a podcast." It's like really important. Can you lend me $4,000? I'm on a podcast.
Do my taxes. I've just got this podcast. What have we caught you in the middle of today, mate? What are you up to?
You've caught me in the middle of doing nothing.
Oh, excellent.
Yeah, it would normally be our day off anyway. No, it wouldn't be because it's Tuesday. But we've just finished doing a run of the play in Sydney, and at the Seymour Centre, and that went really well. And before that, we not obviously, but we did Adelaide for 5 weeks, and that went great. Yeah, it's a day off because we're not doing the show for a week, and then we come to you. A little breather in between. The reviews have been amazing, mate. You must be stoked with that. Yeah, absolutely. It's beyond what I'd imagined. Like my sort of hopes for it were all very positive, of course, but it's gone well beyond that. And it's if you make something, anything that you creative, you kind of go, gee, I hope people get this bit, and I hope they get that. I hope they make that connection or whatever. And with this, it's gone beyond to every single thing we brought up and mentioned and tried to get across as a point people are picking up on and running with, and it's just been incredible. And for me, like as a fanboy of theatre and film and TV and stuff, some of the people that have seen it and been really affected by it just blow my mind. Like as far as Hugo Weaving and Brian Brown and Sam Neill.
Wow.
Sam Neill was like really emotionally kind of affected by it. It was quite emotional when he was talking to me. It was amazing.
Have you had a relationship with Sam Neill in the past? Does he know you?
No.
Oh, okay. Right.
I'd never met him, but Ian, who's the other person in the show, he'd met Sam before, but I'd never met Brian or Sam.
Wow.
And so that was, and in fact, Brian saw it and then recommended, said to Sam, "You've got to go see this." And look, I'm totally name dropping, but
It's great.
I was really excited to have those guys, and just looking up and seeing various people that have seen it, celebrities or whatever, in the audience is so intimidating. You're just going along doing your thing, blah 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 blah, and you look up and you just go, "Oh my god!" Yeah, so it's been incredible on that level, and we had the Premier of South Australia came and saw it, and had a drink with us afterwards and really loved it. And,
Nice.
And the other thing that's been great for me is the reaction of women. There's been a lot of women because it is two men on stage talking about themselves. Here we go, two old white men talking about themselves. Warning, but they've the general gist I've had from a lot of women who've seen it is that they're really happy to see two men talking about stuff that they say that they don't see very often. They don't see men talking about these particular things, and
Right.
so that's fantastic. It's because that was one danger, I suppose, with being two blokes, was that it might women might not be interested or whatever, but we've had quite the opposite, which has been great.
Nice. Mate, I have been a fan of yours for many years. When I was a bit of a confession, when I was a young fella, we went.
No, this is going to make me sound really old.
No, I don't think so. When I was a kid, I went away on a family holiday with sort of cousins and my auntie and uncle, and there was this little farm stay thing. And before we went away, the families decided there was going to be like a review kind of thing.
Oh, wow, great.
Yeah, super
Great.
dorky, super silly, a lot of fun. Everyone had to bring an act on this one night. And when I was a kid, before we left, I saw a short stand-up skit of yours, a little set, and I liked it so much that I decided I'm going to memorize this.
Great.
And I'm going to perform it at this review, and I am just going to bring the house down because this is all killer. And so I did it. I memorized it. I had a couple of dress rehearsals. I
fantastic.
Performed it to other people. It was going really, really well.
Until you can tell this has got a bad ending, this story.
So I was up just after my cousins who did a ripping rendition of I Am the Music Man, and they took the piss out of everyone.
Oh, no.
Sensational.
No, wow, that's a terrible song. That was the one that was on Hey Hey It's Saturday.
That's right, yeah.
I could never understand why that was funny, but anyway, whatever.
Yes. So that went down very well, and then I got up to do my full Greg Fleet
impersonation.
Stand up, yeah. And I bombed so hard. And
I promise you it wasn't the material. The material was gold, I tell you.
It was all good. I can't remember. I can't remember really any of it now because my memory is just so bad. But look,
it's probably this thing where you're an 8-year-old kid doing this material about how you used to be a heroin addict. The audience are going, "What? I don't remember this. I'm his dad. I don't remember this ever happening."
No, that was the first and last time I ever did stand up, and I wasn't even using my own material.
Oh, that's terrible. Yeah, and doing it to your family and using my material. Oh,
they were
double
confused.
painful.
Has anyone ever been that blatant in plagiarising your stuff, mate?
Oh, look, absolutely. And, there's a couple of people who've told me stories like that, like that they did it at a school competition or, in front of their family or whatever, which are fine. They're great. But then, unfortunately, comedy is one of those things where people just do it without, people do it at gigs, people, I've been introduced. I got introduced once when I was fairly new. I got introduced with one of my own bits of material. The guy didn't even know who he was ripping off, and did it, and then brought me on with it. I was like, oh, what? So, comedians generally don't do that, but occasionally you get people just crossing the line and doing your stuff, all over the place, or you'll go to a new city or, even new country and do your set, and people go, somebody go, oh, that's Stevie's stuff. And you go, what? And they go, that stuff you're doing, you stole that off Steve McLaren. You're like, no, I didn't. And so Steve McLaren, or whatever his name is obviously been to Australia or, seen you online and gone, oh, I'll do that. No one will ever know. So there is a bit of, yeah.
Do you still have a love for stand-up?
Yes and no. Ideally for me now, and certainly there was some of the greatest times of my life, absolutely, and it took me around the world and all sorts of stuff. But I was always more of a storyteller really than a stand-up as such. Like I didn't have snappy jokes and all that. It was more you had to get on board for a story, and so what I would like to do going forward is I don't think I'd do, general stand-up comedy rooms again, I may, if I was at one and someone said I'll get up, I might just jump up and do 5 minutes. But generally I would like to do my own stuff, like probably do my own nights, like don't do it very often. And when I did do it, whatever it's called, Fleet Street or whatever. And, you do it twice a year in each city. So people would actually come too, because they wouldn't go, I can see you anytime down at the local pub, They'd be like, oh, Fleety's doing a gig, that's rare. So I'd probably do that and have a couple of friends as supports or people who are on the same night, and not necessarily stand-ups, maybe, friends who are musicians or, whatever, get Timmy Rogers down to play a couple of songs or, whatever it is. And, do that, and maybe even, do an interview with a politician or a sports person or something in the middle of it, just to make it different, rather than just a whole lot of comics, boom, boom, boom. My own night, and that way also, if you, in an interview or a story, if you went off on a serious tangent, the audience wouldn't be going, oh, what's this? They'd go with it, because they go, well, they'd know that it's, it's wherever I want it to go. It's not, it doesn't have to be comedy or tragedy or, whatever.
Yeah, great.
So that's my ideal thing. And so, the short answer is, I would still be doing stand-up, but in a different form and on my own terms.
Yeah,
and
cool.
and also preaching to the Fleet fans out there, rather than trying to convince a room full of, strangers that I'm worth listening to, because I've done all that. I've got that jumper and that medal.
Yeah.
But, and the other thing is, to a degree, I think it's a young person's game. I think not necessarily true, but I see all these young comics trying to get work, and I kind of think, well, in a way, I'm in the way of that. Like, if I'm on the gala at the comedy festival, or if I'm on some TV spot, on a TV show or whatever, that's something they could be doing that I've done before. So I don't really need to, I don't need it. And whereas they do. So I'm being a hero to the young comics by falling on my sword.
That's great. You obviously have a love for writing. 3 books down. Obviously wrote The Twins, which we've got you on. Most recently, your most recent book, The Good Son. Is there anything that you're working on in the background at the moment that you can give us a little sneak preview of?
I'm currently working on turning The Good Son into a film. I'm doing a film adaptation of it.
Excellent.
Yeah. So that's really good. I'm working with some good people on that who are very established and know what they're doing. So they can help me along. And basically doing that. And I've had a couple of ideas for new books, stroke films or whatever. And so basically, I think, working on the film of The Good Son and a new book idea, and other than that, just doing this, obviously doing The Twins has taken up a huge amount of time in the last year and a half or so.
Yeah. Have you helped out with movie scripts or had a crack at that in the past? Is this new territory?
Not really. I have. I've written dialogue for films and stuff.
Yeah, right.
But I've never actually written a film as such, from the ground up.
Yeah,
but,
cool.
I'm really enjoying the challenge and the education of it. Learning how to do it and what works where and why, and that's been really, really interesting. But the book The Good Son was originally in my head was a film anyway, but at the time I just thought, how do you write a film? Like I wouldn't have a clue, or when you write it, who do you take it to and all that. So I just thought, I'll write it as a book, and hopefully someone will go, oh, you should turn this into a film, which is exactly what's happened. So
right. Perfect.
Yeah.
6 years ago, you released an amazing book called These Things Happen, a book filled with stories around life as a heroin addict. You described it as an informative, fun, disturbing, and beautiful take on a life, which I thought was pretty cool.
That's pretty good. I thought you were going to say an informative, fun romp through the world of heroin addiction. No, that sums it up pretty well. But it's that book certainly had and continues to have an impact on people. It's gone really well.
I was going to ask that exactly. Basically, like 6 years down the track, what's the feedback? Is it regular that people are calling you up wanting to still talk to you about this?
Yeah, absolutely. Probably almost daily I run into someone that'll mention it in some way. Wow. Either at a gig, where people will go afterwards, say, "Oh, I read your book," and blah blah blah, or sometimes just walking down the street, you get the odd person just going, "Oh, you're Greg Fleet," and I go, "Yeah," and then I'll work out if I owe them money first, and then and then they talk about that book, but it's also aside from people just going, "Oh yeah, I read your book, it's really great," I also get a lot of people going, I read your book, it was really helpful to me, because my brother or my son is an addict, or my father is an addict, or my mother, or or I am, themselves. They'll go, like I was an addict, or I still am an addict, and that was really helpful, Yeah. So that's really nice to know that it has a positive. It's more than just a chest beating exercise. It actually has a positive impact.
Yeah. Do people who write books ever go back and read them again, like years after?
I don't know. I mean, I haven't.
No.
I keep saying that I will, but I think it's so. In a way, it's such an exhausting. Or not exhausting, but you by writing it and going back and editing it and writing it again and going back and putting it all together.
Yeah.
You've read it so much that you kind of go like, oh yeah, whatever. But
done.
But I will, like, for example, I'm going to read The Good Son again, because I think it will just help with writing the film script. Gotcha. And there'll be a lot of things that I go, oh, that's right, I've forgotten about that bit, or I could work that into there, or whatever.
Yeah. I know we talked about you being a big fan of our four-legged friends earlier, but I didn't actually realise, and I feel like I should have known this, that you voiced the dog in the home timber and hardware.
That's right. The yellow dog in the home hardware ads.
Yeah. I've always thought
for ages.
Yeah, it's such a long time.
It was like 11 years or something that job went for.
Wow. Yeah. What a great gig. I always thought doing voiceover work must be so fun.
Yeah, well, it kind of is and isn't. I mean, like, I took that for granted a bit. I was a bit like, oh yeah, here we go.
Whatever.
More dog, blah blah blah. But I mean, aside from anything else, you realise that it'd take probably half an hour at a time, and maybe maybe half an hour at a time, maybe 3 times a year, and maybe one time that went for maybe an hour and a half.
Yeah, right.
So all up, not very much. And for that, you'd probably earn close to 20 grand or something, and you don't really think about it because it comes in bits and pieces. But when that job goes away, you notice it. You go, oh, where's all this money I used to have? But,
to bring back that role.
Yeah, I miss the yellow dog, and so a lot of people do. A lot of people got grumpy when they took the dogs away, and they were saying, people were going, "What happened to the yellow dog?" And I said, they took it behind the home hardware shed. They put 2 in its head. They executed the yellow dog. No, you can't kill the dog.
No,
dog lives.
Dog lives forever. Let's talk more about the twins, mate. So we're talking 3 to 6 May. We're not too far away.
No.
2021, this year. I know we have to talk.
Yes.
We have to talk about years. You can't just take that for granted now, because
Yeah.
last year we'd talk about dates and we'd say, no, next year, not this year. But
well, now people take years off now. Like I'm taking the year off because of COVID.
Yeah, exactly. But you partnered with Ian Darling on this one, who's, from what I hear, primarily a filmmaker. You've got Sarah Butler on the case with you as well, who's a theatre maker, to write this show. You yourself have written books. How was it writing with other people coming from different backgrounds and skill sets?
It was challenging. It was great on most levels, and with what we ended up with, it was fantastic. It was necessary and really great. But it was certainly at times quite difficult, because we were dealing with highly personal stuff. Like, it's really, if you see the show, you'll know it's very very personal. We go to some really uncomfortable places, and originally I was going to just write it, and Sarah was going to direct it, and Ian and I were going to be in it, and that was it. But then I started writing it, and a mixture of me being lazy, but also just I just kept finding myself coming to bits where I'd just go like, I can't write this. It's Ian's experience, and it's really got to be in his voice. Like, I almost felt like I was trespassing, trying to write some of the stuff. And
right.
So we ended up writing some of those bits, the really personal bits ourselves, and that really helped. But then the other great thing having Sarah there was it was really important to have a woman's voice, I think, in the process. And so that was really helpful and kept us, not that we would have ever, deviated into bloke land and, just come up with this blokey football chant show, but it certainly helped, keep us alert to the world, that we live in. And so, it was, and there were days where the three of us would, in the writing process, there were days where I just wanted to pull my teeth out. It was so tedious and so like, I just thought, God, I could do this, so much quicker myself, but it was necessary. And then yet there were other days where the three of us would just be in heaven. We were writing in the country, and we're in the middle of nowhere,
right.
Country place, just going, yes, just, yelling out to the bush, we've done it. And then the next day to be back to grim, it was just back and forth. But it was a great experience, and we ended up, learning a lot about writing with other people, and it's more difficult, but I think ultimately more rewarding.
For people that don't know, it is a show based in a lot of truth, from what I gather from your relationship with Ian.
It basically we knew each other when we were 12, and then we did a whole lot of theatre together at school, and we loved acting and we loved theatre, and we got so into it. We were both thought we were the greatest actors of our generation, and we were always going to do all these things together, and we were going to both audition for NIDA and stuff. And then Ian didn't turn up on the day for the NIDA auditions, and he didn't show up, and I don't want to give away why, because that's part of the show. Cool. And I auditioned and I got in, and then later on down the track I got thrown out. But he and I then would run into each other periodically, and we'd get really excited, and we go like, we're going to get together and do this show, and it's going to be fantastic, and blah, blah, blah. And we did that once, literally, on Collins Street in Melbourne. We ran into each other, and we'd done this play at school called The Comedy of Errors, where we played twins. And we did this, we saw each other having not seen each other for a couple of years, and we did this bit out of the play, this twins bit where they sort of mirrored each other, and we did it in the middle of Collins Street, perfectly. And we were like, oh my God, it's so exciting. And we got really fired up, and we were going to meet the following Tuesday. We were going to have lunch, and we were going to do a show, and it was going to be fantastic. And then we literally didn't see each other for 13 years.
Oh my God.
Yeah, and for various reasons. And then we saw each other again, and more recently we saw each other after a long period of not seeing each other. And in all that time, there's all these different things we're doing with our lives, and we kept having these sliding door moments where we'd come back together and go apart. And we came back together this most recent time and thought, right, we're going to do, and we were going to do a two-hander version of A Comedy of Errors by Shakespeare, and we were going to just rewrite it as a two-hander. And we got together, and we found out that was impossible and stupid, but B, we just found the more we talked, and the more we talked about our lives, and all sorts of things like privilege and white privilege, addiction, having gone to a fortunate boarding school, drug addiction, that kind of stuff. The labels we give ourselves and other people, parents, our relationships with our fathers, and our relationships with our children, and all kinds of things. And it just got deeper and deeper and deeper. And the more we talked, the more we thought, this is the real story. It's not doing a two-hander version of Comedy of Errors. It's what we're talking about. Yeah. So we made a commitment to that, and we just really got into it. And we originally we weren't even necessarily going to perform it. We were just coming up with this thing, and it was almost like therapy. Yeah. And then I suggested we do it in the Adelaide Fringe, and it just took off from there. And so we did, and we basically came up. We call it theatre verite. It's like a new form of theatre where it's all real. It's all true. Yep. And and it's sort of set in real time almost. But it's been amazing. It's been an absolutely amazing journey, and it's taken us a couple of years. Through that time, we had to negotiate bushfires. Yeah. We had to negotiate, obviously, COVID. There were a couple of times in the making of this play where we were on literally the last plane out of places, like going from Melbourne to Adelaide to do the first run of the show. Ian and I were on the last flight out of Melbourne, and had we not been on that flight, we would not have done the show. It would never have happened.
Wow.
So, yeah, and so we probably wouldn't even be here now. Like, we would have cancelled the whole thing,
Oh,
but so we've had a few real lucky breaks like that. So it's been an amazing, and all of that is worked into the script. The COVID stuff, no, we left that out on purpose because we thought, I reckon people are going to be sick of COVID by the time we do this, and just want an hour and a half away from it, Yeah. And it deals with so much heavy stuff that we don't need COVID, And we talk about the fires and stuff, but it's been amazing. And and then, as I said, the responses from people were, like what you'd secretly, you wouldn't even tell someone else what you wanted. You go, God, I'd love it if this happened, but of course it won't.
So good if Sam Neill came along and told me how good it was. How good would that be?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, said it was the best thing he'd seen on stage in a number of years.
Yes.
Oh, yes. Oh, sorry. Did I quote him? Oh, yeah, I did. Yeah.
Could you imagine this going on after you guys have decided, okay, we've had enough of playing these roles, and other people jumping into these roles, and it?
Well, it's funny you should say that, because that's the thing that Brian Brown said to me was, he said, "Oh, Sam and I could do this," and I was just like, "Oh my God!" But it would be a disaster if someone else tried doing it, because one of the reasons it works is because that it's happened to the people who are talking about it. Right. It actually wouldn't work if other people were playing the roles, because that immediate kind of, oh my God thing would be taken out. You'd go, oh, they're just, it's not that confrontational because they're just pretending to be these people.
Yeah.
So, no, it couldn't work. But, what could work is a similar style of thing with anyone. Anyone could do it. You just get together and really, look at your lives and examine your relationship with each other, and through that will come a piece.
Fascinating. You have discovered a new style of theatre. This is huge.
A new form of this theatre verite. Come, theatre verite. It's wonderful. Quote Sam Neill.
There'll be statues of you and Ian at the front of new theatre establishments. This is going to be huge.
Statues of Ian and I standing up with Brian Brown and Sam Neill's hand reaching up to our feet.
Oh, Greg, I think everyone's got to get along and check this out. It sounds really amazing and a one of a kind, as you say. If you guys aren't playing this role, like this is your chance to check it out. Yeah,
and like I've probably made it sound very grim and bleak, and it is in parts, but it's also incredibly funny in parts. I mean, everything. It's going to sound arrogant, but everything I do is funny in that I find comedy very easy, and so that's always just a given for me. I just go, oh, well, it'll be funny, but it's heartbreaking, it's hilarious, it's all that sort of stuff, but it covers the gamut of emotions, I guess.
Yeah, great.
Yeah.
Well, mate, thanks so much for coming on and telling us a bit about this new work of yours. And
we're really looking forward to coming and doing it in Canberra. The last time I was in Canberra, I did a zombie film.
Oh, yes.
For 6 weeks filming me and my mates versus the zombie apocalypse.
Yeah, with Dan Sanguinetti and all his crew. Yeah, those guys. Very cool.
They'll all be coming along. They've got no choice. They have to attend.
Yeah. Oh, mate, they'll be there with bells on. Well, yeah, we like the rest of us, we can't wait to see it. 3 to 6 May, get along, the twins. Greg Fleet will be there with his mate Ian, and it's going to be a great show. Mate, thanks so much for coming on, and again, apologise for plagiarising all your material all those years.
Please, I just wish you'd done it better.
Me too. Thanks, mate.
Thanks, Belly.